You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to dissect and discuss horror films, both old and new. We've been kind of immersed quite recently in the older category of that description I just said of the older films as we've been going through films that have celebrated their big milestones and stuff. But we're having a bit of a rare treat where we're actually going to look at a recent film, which hopefully, if I get my butt into gear and edit this thing quickly and get it out there, is being released at the time that this podcast will be released too. And that was obviously Dr. Sleep, the sequel to Stephen King's The Shining, or in this case, the sequel to Stephen King's The Shining and Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, as we are presented with an amalgamation, a metamorphosis, if you will, of the two universe. Like we spoke about this before, about the two universes that have kind of collided. And this is what Mike Flanagan, the director, has done. And I would like to talk about Mike Flanagan in a bit. But before we do so, should introduce myself. I'm the host of the series, Saul Muerte, and joining me once again in the chair next to me, or across the ethos of space, is Mr. Lovegrove. Richard, welcome aboard.
I'm just a shine away. G'day, mate. How you going?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, so like we literally just recently chatted about The Shining, and listeners can kind of go check that out now too. And do it. Don't be afraid. Do it now. I have to apologize. We were talking about Terminator Dark Fate just prior to the roll of this, and now I'm going all on everyone. I apologize.
We'll just go back in time like it never happened.
Yeah, and then just shoot them. They're a goner. I want your flowers.
If only they had The Shining. Things would have gotten done a lot quicker.
A lot quicker. They would like.
We had Wi-Fi. Anyway, I digress.
So yeah, look, so we talked about The Shining, and we were talking about the fact that we were going to see this film courtesy of Roadshow, and thank you very much to you guys for allowing us to attend one of the advanced screenings. And we've had a little bit of time. We've sat down, we've processed, and now we're in front of the mics, ready to kind of cast our opinions on whether or not Mr. Mike Flanagan has succeeded in his portrayal of Stephen King's sequel.
Yeah.
But before we do so, I did want to have a quick natter, as I said, about Mike Flanagan. Now, I think I prefaced this in the last podcast as well, is that I'm a big fan of Flanagan's work. He's one of the rare contemporary directors who hasn't really tripped up thus far. And I'm pretty sure there are going to be people out there that are going to be spinning in their grave as I say that sentence and disagree with me. And I don't mind if you send stuff in and let me know your thoughts on that. It's all good. But for my personal taste, I've loved his work from Absentia, when his first kind of film that he released. And like, I'm going to reel them off really quickly because I think they're worth mentioning. But he then did Oculus, which if you haven't seen it, I highly
is brilliant. Yes, that's probably the only film of his that I'm on the list that I've seen besides Dr. Sleep. And yeah, I have to say that's a standalone film, and it's just brilliant.
So good. And then he did Hush. We had 3 films that came out in the same year. So we had Hush, which is basically, it's a home invasion movie told where the lead heroine is deaf and is at first unaware of said invasion taking place. And it's really cool. It's a paint by numbers job, but it's done in a smart way. We also have Before I Wake, which I thoroughly recommend too, particularly those that like a bit more of a supernatural fantasy bent to their films. Then we had Ouija, Origin of Evil, the sequel that should never have been. And I mean that in the sense that the original was so shit. Nobody really expected a sequel to materialize. And the fact that he came out, made a sequel, and it's bloody good. Is kind of interesting and a bit rare in those kind of circumstances. We also get Gerald's Game, which was his first attempt at doing an adaptation of a Stephen King novel, a novel which many people said was unfilmable, and yet he managed to do it and did it successfully. And actually, in that film, he has Bruce Greenwood in it, who also stars in this film, Doctor Sleep.
I was even going to say, apparently, Ouija, Origin of Evil, Henry Thomas was also in that one.
Oh, he was too. Yeah, and he pops up in this as well as Lloyd, and as kind of a manifestation of Jack Torrance role by Stephen King. No, by
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson. Yeah, sorry, mine. Like, how can you forget Jack?
How can we forget Jack?
Yeah.
No, Gerald's Game is one that I particularly want to see because, like Hitchcock's, I think it's The Lifeboat. Any film that's set in a remote location, like Phone Booth. What was that one in the middle of the sea? All of those, I love them. They're simple premise to see how they can fill that time and use that suspense. And that was one of the things, especially about The Shining and how they used long shots and stuff like that. That was something that was always going to be hard to live up to with this. And so having someone like Mike Flanagan with, again, like Oculus behind him and Gerald's Game, he's definitely got his own style that he's putting into this film.
Yeah. And the only thing we neglected to mention in his canon of work is obviously the Netflix series The Haunting of Hill House. And there rarely has there been a series that has kind of really gripped me, and I think he did such a fabulous job of that. And speaking of shots that take place in one spot, there's one of the most known episodes was the and I forget which episode number it was, but it all takes place in one location, and it's one continuous shot.
Wow.
With the exception of one cut, which then kind of bleeds in nicely to another long continuous shot. And like his Twitter, like you have to kind of look it up, but there's like his Twitter response to the way he did post it out exactly how he broke down the shooting schedule and stuff, and it had to be so meticulously choreographed. And it's a great episode. I really recommend anyone you just dive in and watch that episode alone if you don't want to watch the whole series.
No, absolutely. I've only ever heard good things about The Haunting of Hill House, the TV series. I personally got to get into it, but I hazard to say it's based roughly on a true story, isn't it, or testimony of a true story?
No, it's based on The Haunting. Do you know the film The Haunting?
The Haunting of Bly Manor.
No. That's a different. Oh yeah, was it? Hold on.
I think that's the next one that's happening.
Yeah, it's Shirley Jackson's novel, The Haunt. I'm pretty sure it's called just The Haunting. But
okay.
Could be wrong. So, but she. No, it was called The Haunting of Hill House. Yes. The film 1960. There was like a 1960 or 69 version of the film, a film made called The Haunting, and that's bloody good.
Brilliant.
I recommend somebody watch that if you haven't seen that one.
That one definitely stands the test of time.
99 or something like that, which was actually called The Haunting of Hill House as well, I think, with Liam Neeson and Catherine.
Oh, so no, that was called. Yeah, that was The Haunting. That Catherine Zeta-Jones, Liam Neeson. Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
Fun little piece of trash.
Yeah. It's fun. It's not great. It's fun.
No, it's fun.
There's a difference.
But nothing on compared to that previous one. So this is the same story as that original one.
No, it's an adaptation of it.
Great.
It doesn't follow the same
beats and
it doesn't follow the same characters. It follows it's basically a family that move in.
Wow.
To the Hill House. And the impact that that house has on the family. Slightly different, but interesting. But he's meant to be overseeing. I don't know if he's directing it again, but there is a sequel of sorts, which is going to be The Haunting of Bly Manor. Now, that's based on The Turn of the Screw by Henry James.
Okay, nice.
So that people may know that from older generation, may know that as when it was adapted to a film called The Innocents, which is also very, very good. But more modern audiences may know it as adapted by into a film called The Others, starring Nicole Kidman. So it's a very known story. And it will be interesting to see how he adapts that one too. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, like, I've been obviously you can tell I'm doing a bit of a man crush thing on Mike Flanagan. I love the guy. I think he's doing. He knows his craft.
Yeah.
I literally I follow him on Twitter as well, and it's might be one of these ones that gets taken with a grain of salt. But I'm pretty sure I saw him conversing with the original writer of A Final Destination. And basically saying, "Let's do this. It's a good idea. Let's just do it." So hints that he may even be thinking about resurrecting Final Destination again.
Wow, that'd be a lot of fun. They were always enjoyable, those.
They were too. They were, but with Devon Sawyer from the original.
Oh, great!
Apparently, but you know these things often get spoken about and never materialize. So who knows? In the grand scheme of things. All right, so where does that place us? That places us him at the helm of Dr. Sleep and the sequel to The Shining. And interestingly, when the trailer kind of first was released for this, because people are aware, obviously, of Dr. Sleep, the novel, which was written by Stephen King, and also aware of The Shining by Stanley Kubrick. And Stephen King famously kind of coming out and basically lambasting that vision because he, as we spoke about this in the previous podcast, and that he wasn't a fan.
Definitely not happy.
What people didn't expect, though, I think people just expected it to be like a sequel to the novel, like as the novel is. But when the trailer hit, it was soon very obvious that it was a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's vision.
Yeah.
So then how does that then fit into Stephen, I'm a naysayer to that vision's King, and his perspective of it? Because but I did hear whispers that he approved this, which I don't know, he seems to be approving a lot of things. Like he approved the Pet Sematary remake, which you've got to question his sanity for that because it wasn't that great, personally. No.
Not compared to the previous one.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I felt,
but I think that's it too. It's that idea of he's getting to an older sort of position now, and with the success of it, he probably thinks he can see this marketability, especially with these universes that are getting created.
Yeah,
and surprisingly, his stories are actually lend a lot more to the universe idea because it's already set out. I mean, there's that map that you've got all of the how they intersect and stuff, and so it's all pretty much there. I mean,
and I felt that with this one, and I know we're jumping ahead a bit, but I felt that more so with this film, particularly with the True Knot people, because I was watching them, and we'll discuss them in a bit. But especially like the way that they kind of are a collective that basically feed off those that shine is the emphasis of it. But as I was watching it, I was thinking of Salem's Lot, and I know they're more vampires, but that kind of whole mythology that surrounds that too. And I could easily see these people, these groups of people, kind of living kind of in that world as well. And
that being a standalone,
yeah, that's exactly right. And like they even hint that. There are in the movie, at least they hint that there are possibly others.
Yes,
I haven't quite got. I wanted to get through the book. I should probably say this. I haven't read Dr. Sleep the whole way through yet. I wanted to go in watching this movie with a bit of a blank canvas approach to it, and I'm kind of glad I did. And I was hoping to try and read read a Stephen King novel in the short time frame between watching the film and our podcast record.
Oh no!
Oh no! Oh no! What's he done?
And he's lost.
And I'm gone. Yeah, but I got about a quarter of the way through. But I will say that at the moment, there are talks about somebody higher up in the what am I trying to say? In the collective above Rose the Hat's character.
Mm-hmm.
So it does insinuate that there are others already. So like a bit more blatantly than the film did, because the film just kind of suggested it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Having said that, though, it did seem how organised she was, and having the characters that she had in their ilk, that it did lend to the idea of going, yeah, I'm sure in Europe there would probably be hundreds of these things.
Yeah.
Because they seemed like a gypsy type
yes.
community that was moving all the time. So
yes. Yeah, and I was like, kind of, I'm thinking of Interview with a Vampire, with the whole, Antonio Banderas and Stephen. Oh, what is his name?
Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. It does Interview with a Vampire, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I was thinking of so Antonio Banderas has a troupe of people, and there's Stephen Ray. That's it.
Of course, the ones that eat the girl on the stage.
Yeah, I was thinking like of that, like. Because again, we're jumping around, and it's because the thing that really resonated, they were the people that's what resonated with me most, was this collective, the True Knot.
Their story.
Their characters. Yeah, I'd love to know more about them and their world, and explore that further if it was possible.
There was many elements of this film that could have been their own entity, their own separate film and full-length feature too. Because I'm sure as we get into it, the poster, the nostalgia that's sort of slapped in your face. I also came to this with having read either The Shining or Dr. Sleep, but being a huge fan of the film version, but also seeing miniseries, as I've mentioned in the last podcast.
Yes.
So I actually felt like in this sense, it would have been better to have no connection alluded to and just started from one element of any of those stories and progressed from there, so that the audience could have made more of a realization. Having said that, I know how nostalgia pays off, when they hear that theme, when they'll see colors. It's the same as why 237 was such a success, purely on the poster and on the DVD.
Yes.
I mean, they've got socks that we saw when we were at the Dr. Sleep premiere, that there was a guy who had the pattern on his shirt. It looked fantastic. But I think that annoyed me a little bit, that sort of slapping you in the face from the very beginning.
Are we talking about the actual prologue kind of? Yeah, I agree with you there.
A bit.
Yeah. Actually, let's do this. Let's kind of like start dissecting and discussing this bad boy, because I agree with you. The opening of the film kind of jarred me a little bit with its kind of nostalgia element at play, and also like basically kind of recapping some of what we'd already seen, and but having Danny as a kid, and we see Wendy not. Hi, I'm Shelley Duvall, in the role of Wendy.
Hi, I'm Shelley Duvall's look like. and the actors do a very good job, but again, it's jarring because it's almost uncanny valley. Like then, and performances are great, but I also felt like it could have easily been self-explained later in his life by a look, or the insinuation that we know what he's doing, because at this point it's really reinforcing that they've moved to a different place, to Florida, to try and get over everything that happened at the Overlook, and Danny is still plagued by hauntings from the woman in the bath, and so and getting terrified by that until he talked to Dick Halloran.
Dick Halloran, who comes to him as a ghost. Because in the Kubrick version, he's killed. But in the novel, he's still alive.
He's still alive. But you sort of, I assume, can get by going, maybe he's died from old age at this point? Or natural causes,
you could,
But that's one of those things that sort of works either way, I think, in that. But yeah, he basically gives him a little trick on how to lock things away.
Yeah, that's right. Basically presents him with a box and says, I want you to memorize that box. And in the novel, it talks about a code, like a code that's only specific to you, that you know how to open that box. But you need to memorize that and then put it in your head and visualize that box in your head. It's a very kind of psychological approach.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Away and
because from a neurolinguistical programming point of view, the mind palace is a memory technique which people are employed to design an architectural building specific to you, with a layout that you fill with items that are of your importance and have relevance. So as you said, like codes and things like that might be represented by pictures or familiar things that to you mean something. But if someone else was then in this world of Dr. Sleep, I'm assuming, goes into that world, you would have to navigate it. The same as if you would have to navigate someone's real house that has security systems, I'm assuming.
That's right.
Yeah. So I really found that really interesting, which it sort of divulges a bit later on. But every time we see him with those boxes, he's in that maze, in the freezing maze. And I thought that was interesting too, because it was where Jack Torrance died.
Yes.
So it's where he's sort of locking... I don't know if it's a safe place or that's where he's keeping the scary stuff, or
Well, and that's the thing, and we should probably kind of discuss that too, because we should probably discuss that too, because the idea of it. So what's happening is that despite the Overlook Hotel, how do I explain this? So at the end of the novel, the Overlook Hotel is completely blown up with the boiler explosion, right? And but obviously in this one, it still exists, and it's just basically kind of gone into liquidation and kind of just been.
Yeah, they said they let it rot.
Yeah, that's right. So either way, it's dormant, right? In both cases, but the spirits that resided within are equally as powerful, and they start. Because
they have nothing to feed off.
Danny's shining is so strong, they exist. They still exist because of him within this world, and because they still are attached to his shining and want to feed off it. So, what essentially is happening is that these spirits start presenting themselves to him, no matter where he is. They start showing up, and because they still want to feed off his shining, and the only kind of real instance we get to see of this is at the very beginning, where we start seeing the rotten woman in the bath, which is, I think her name is Miss Macy, is the spirit's name.
Because I was going to say, we didn't say this in the Shining podcast, but apparently her backstory is that she committed suicide in the bath. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. Yeah.
A jilted lover or something like that?
That's right. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Because I have read The Shining, and I had forgotten. But yeah, you're right. That's exactly right. But do you know what? If I was going to criticize this movie, it's that I got a bit jack of seeing the same kind of repeated shot of the Macy woman in the bar. I was like, it felt like it was about 6 or 7 times.
Yes, and the last time we see her, it's a joke. It's got that sense of flippancy about it, which is sort of insulting. No, I agree. From that beginning bit, that whole intro bit with the recreation and the other actors, I didn't think was needed.
No. Although, the only real purpose it served is to present this idea of the boxes. That's basically it. The idea of locking.
Which could have also been done in a flashback or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like Danny going, "Get in the box." No, get in the box. No, get in the box. Yeah. All right then.
Because even on that same thing, when when older Danny Torrance later on in the film, played by Ewan McGregor, which we'll get into soon.
Oh my God, Ewan McGregor!
I know you're McGregor. My gift is my song. But he's talking to Dick Halloran, and they're talking about this, the discussion of putting the ghosts in the boxes. And he makes a reference which again really annoyed me, which he says one of the characters from the film with the axe wound in his head who says "lovely party," and it was like, what, we're going to hit every nostalgic beat in this, are we? Like, yeah, it just seemed like, again, a little bit of a slap in the face. And if you're going to have that in it anyway, do you need the beginning bit?
Yeah, true. That's true.
Or again, just have that like visual aid of Halloran giving him a box, because that's pretty much what we got in that scene without the dialogue.
Yeah.
Like you never see him say, "Here is a trick, do this with your mind." He just goes, "I think I've got something for you," or like, here's a secret, and he shows him a box that he never opens.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
It's his dick in a box. Dick Halloran in a box.
Dick Halloran has his dick in the box.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that went dark very quick. Oh!
Tonight on Dick in the Box. Yeah. So
then we go into a title with the whole, what is it, the carpet from the Overlook Hotel and the theme, and it's just, oy vey. But that's when I think we start up with Mr. McGregor, don't we?
Mr. McGregor. It starts with Mr. McGregor of the Don McGregors.
And again, where you could have started the film.
Yeah. That's right.
Either here or another scene.
There is a scene that sandwiches that, though. We do actually get to be introduced to Rose the Hat and the whole thing with Violet.
You're right.
First. Where basically there's a young girl in some kind of campsite. It's 1980. 80. And it's some kind of campsite, or it's by a lake anyway. And the girl goes wandering off down by the lake, and she meets Rose the Hat, who is wearing a steampunk hat.
Is it a pork pie hat?
It's a pork pie hat, yeah.
Yeah. She calls it a top hat, and it's like, well, no.
No, not really. It's not big enough, is it, Sonny? And she's played by Rebecca Ferguson, who some people may know from the White Queen series. And she's kind of like just sitting there on a log or something by the water. And there's this whole thing about flowers that get, violet flowers and stuff, because the girl's all violet, and she's kind of showing her a bit of a trick. And this kind of puts Violet at ease. And then slowly we start to see some of the other True Knot members kind of materializing out of the woods. And
very Weeping Angel style.
Yeah. And Rose the Hat is kind of like, don't mind them, that's all right, they're with me kind of thing.
Actually, what it reminded me of was the topiary from the miniseries, the Shining miniseries, when they were just sort of still, and then you'd turn your back and they'd move closer. Again, the Weeping Angel.
Yeah. But on that note, kind of on a note of what it reminded me of, it actually reminded me of a bit of a flip of James Whale's Frankenstein, where we have the monster, obviously, Frankenstein's monster is the one that approaches the water, and he sees a young girl there, and she has flowers, and he says, "Oh, pretty flowers," and he ends up killing her. Because he thinks she's pretty, and he crushes her without realizing his strength. And I feel like we get a little bit. I wonder if that was a deliberate play on the location, because the shot kind of almost looked very similar. And in this instance, Rose is the one that's they're acting innocent by the water, but it turns out she's not the innocent one. She's the evil Artie. So that particularly struck me in the last few days after our screening. And I thought, actually, I wonder if that was a deliberate ploy on Flanagan's part.
Yeah, it could have been like a little homage, yeah.
Tell me, Flanagan, tell me what's the purpose of this role here?
Yeah, because I was actually even thinking in the context of the film and what they're doing, because they're going to feed off her shine, is that they don't scare her. They don't hurt her, that we see.
But we don't actually see what happens to her.
That's true. We end where they begin.
Yes, that's right. And they do mention about feeding on the steam, which happens when people that have a shining ability, which this girl Violet has. But we also, and I think, and I may be jumping around, but I can't remember if we see Danny next. I think we see Danny next, don't we? And then we get the whole, hey, what's in the box? What's in the box? Moment. Before we then are reintroduced to Rose the Hat in the cinema, and she is sitting next to Crow Daddy.
Yes, awesome character. I loved his character. And when you were saying about, like, seeing more into their story, I was very much wanting that. I wanted to see that couple and them to just go, no, let's leave, or go off to somewhere else. Could have easily been its own TV show. It
could have done, and you know what? That's the thing I felt watching this movie too, is that it could so easily have been a series and fleshed out in a long form fashion in that sense.
Because even when we get to the introduction of the next character, who's Abra, at that point, I think after that scene, I was sort of going, okay, enough character, enough setup. Let's get to the plot. I want to know why I'm here rather than everyone's here. Because I think at that point, it wasn't really into a steady sort of mode. And Abra has that little party, which she says to the magician that she can do things. And
yes, I can do that. I can put spoons on the ceiling.
Stop. I don't know. If my kid did that, I would be impressed. If only because I would be going, yay, don't get angry at us. Let's channel that to construction. Constructive work.
That's right. That faucet's needed to be fixed for quite some time.
That's it.
Could you?
Now can you put all the paint on the roof? Yeah.
Oh no, child labor.
But when we get introduced to Ewan McGregor's Danny Torrance, he's drunk. He's waking up next to a girl that he has to quickly remember how he got into this bed, and she's covered in vom. So delightful.
Look at that. Sticky. I really like that. This is interesting too, because obviously Danny's become a replica of his father and then resorted to alcohol and drink, and exactly what he didn't want to do. But the difference being is that we see a bit more of a kind of
restraint.
Yes. And he's sympathetic to
Dick does have to tell him to give the money back to her.
The money back, goddammit.
Yeah. And when he went face first into the toilet, I was getting a lot of train spotting. Which I was kind of keen for that.
For what good it could have done, I may as well have shoved them up my ass.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we actually just realized, obviously just prior to him waking up, we do see him on a bender, first and foremost, and then twatting this guy in the head with a pool.
That's right.
Several times, in fact. So a very kind of rough around the edges Danny, who's kind of off the rails, so to speak. And he ends up shacking up with this girl. She has a bit of vom, and
then he has a bit of vom.
He has a bit of vom, and then realizes there's a kid in the scene.
A little curly, blonde-haired kid.
Yep. Who, and then that's where he realizes that he can't really rip her off, even though she already has ripped him off.
Yeah.
By stealing his money and buying all the coke,
which I assume he used.
Yeah, in the book. So this is proof that I have read the book a little bit.
Cool.
In the book, he's questioning that at first. He goes, "I don't even use coke."
Oh.
He goes, "I don't even sniff coke. So how do they do it?" And then he has a flashback and goes, "Oh, I rubbed it into my gums. I remember how." So he did use it.
Yeah, it could have been because he was talking to Dick as well. It's more that him convincing himself that he's innocent.
Yeah.
or justified, sorry. Yeah.
And ancient.
So, he gives the little kid a packet of chips that even made me go, should he be eating that? Puts it on the bed next to Vom.
Yeah.
And, leaves the money there and nips on out.
It's like, I'm getting out of here. and he hightails it away. But yeah, not before being kind of revisited by the ghostly Dick Halloran. So
No one likes a ghostly dick.
look at you, he's so pale and flaccid.
Slap it in your face.
Oh dear. Back to my honeymoon. So where was I going with that? I'm kind of jumping around the timeline again because I don't know at what point. So I mentioned about the cinema scene, but I don't know whether that happened before or after all this stuff happens. But basically,
good point,
we
actually.
have Rose the Hat and Crow Daddy observing a younger girl called Snakebite Andy, and she has telepathic abilities. And she entices dirty old men into the cinemas who and then basically steals them of their money by kind of sending them into a bit of a sleep, and then kind of basically saying you're not going to remember any of this, and the only thing that you'll be remembered of is this marks. She basically kind of leaves these snakebite marks.
A little knife in the side of his cheek.
Like digs into his cheek. And so he basically says, like, every time you look in the mirror and you see that mark, you'll be reminded of, I don't know, something or other. Basically,
yeah, something like that. Because he apparently, I think, was aiming to meet up with an underage girl because she's 15, I think.
She's 15 in this, and yet in the novel,
well, that's what she says, yeah.
30.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was just like, yeah, anyway. But so the idea is anyway that so he's a pedophile or something like that is then going to be branded. Now, I thought that she almost gave him an incantation, like a hypnosis thing.
Yeah, she
that
did.
Whenever he sees that in the mirror, he says, "I'm a."
That's right. He says
is that what happens?
Right. And he has to say it out loud. That's right. You're right.
That's it. Yeah. Which is great. I love that.
Yeah, I do too.
That's really cool.
So I was instantly kind of interested in this Snakebite Andy's character because of that. And I thought she was an interesting premise. And I was intrigued by these three main characters essentially that we see. And there are other members of the True Knot, but they're the only real three that have any purpose.
Have the most weight.
Yeah. But that's why it would be interesting to have explored some of the others a bit more, which we'll get to.
Because even in this scene, I think it is that Rose refers to Snakebite as a pusher, I think.
Yes, a pusher. Yeah, that's right.
Someone who is able to persuade people by her words.
Yes.
With her shine, because obviously that's the psychic abilities in this world is all this shine stuff.
That's right. And that's when they say about recruiting her to be part of the thing of the True Knots, and they basically kidnap her, I think, at this stage.
Yeah, they do. They make a pass out, probably with their shine, I think.
Yeah,
and then she wakes up at their caravan park.
That's it. That's right. So, as I said, jumping around a lot because also at the same time, this is where Danny then fucks off and he ends up moving somewhere a bit like a small town up north. He likes it's like a small little town square and there's like a train. He is
and all the city titles, every shot had a city title.
Yes.
Yes. That got annoying. But so he's moved to a different town and he meets a lovely man with a train set.
Yeah, it's like, look at my train. And this guy's called Billy Freeman.
Woo!
And he's played by Cliff Curtis.
Yeah, one of those recognizable faces, and always in those beautiful, tender sort of roles.
Yeah, he was in Once Were Warriors, so he's a New Zealander guy. So he was born in Once Were Warriors, but I think he wasn't in the Fear the Walking Dead for a bit. I want to say he was
I feel like he might have been. I didn't watch too much of Fear the Walking Dead.
I want to say he was also in that movie Sunshine. Danny Boyle one set in space where they have to try and rig.
Yes. Brilliant movie.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's got a dodgy ending, but I still liked it.
There's a lot of how it's like separated the two sort of types of film.
But anyway, so he's there, and he's basically says he can get him a job, and he automatically recognizes that Danny is an alcoholic, and basically entices him to come to an AA meeting, and he will be his sponsor. Sets him up in the attic room of some kind of flat, of which he has a room down on one of the lower floors, and gets it. And it's during that AA meeting he meets Bruce Greenwood, who chairs those events, and he's also a doctor. And he basically, there's a moment where he's fiddling with his wrist, and Danny notices this, and he kind of goes up to the doctor and says, I know you're looking for your watch. You've left it on the side of the wash table or something like that at your office or whatever it was. And he kind of gives him a funny look. And then obviously we don't actually see the scene, but he finds it where he said it would be. And so he calls Danny in to meet with him. And he kind of says, how do you do that? And he just goes, oh, it's just kind of a guess. And he's like, yeah, I call bullshit.
I thought that was sort of strange motivation as well at that time, that he just suddenly randomly goes, no, this is the person I'm going to help.
Yeah, it was odd, wasn't it? It kind of came out a little bit, considering for years and years he's been suppressing his ability, and
blocking it, exactly,
and locking it up, and then to just randomly tell Bruce Greenwood.
That's it. Not your new buddy, but this guy.
Yeah, I reckon it's because he was President Kennedy.
I was about to say, I was trying to remember this character and what his significance was to the story, and of course, it's just this one scene.
That's exactly it. He doesn't. It's interesting, isn't it? He doesn't do anything else beyond that. Essentially,
because I was instantly going, oh, he's obviously gets killed at some point. He's a big name, but no.
No, he doesn't. But he does at least give him a job at his hospital because he needs a kind of like a janitor, essentially, somebody to clean up.
The orderly.
The orderly, yes. And so he gets a job at...
Orderly.
An orderly. Well, he's an orderly.
He's orderly.
Oh, hello. So he gets a job there, and he uses his shine abilities to comfort dying patients. This is where we get the nickname Dr. Sleep.
This is a lovely moment.
Yeah, it's great. It's an awesome thing. And basically it all starts with him. There's like a hospital cat. And the theory behind it is that whenever this cat goes in and sits on the bed of a patient, that basically means that patient's going to die. And it's in a sense, this cat has. And so we get all that unfolding in the first instance where he walks into this room, which just so happens to be room 217. Now, I know it's not 237 in the Shining Stanley Kubrick film, but in the novel, was never 237. It was always room 217. And that was a moment I did a bit of hey, Richard, 217.
Yeah. Oh. I love that.
Yeah. So I really like that. That was a really cool nod on behalf of Flanagan to King. In that instance, I thought.
Yeah, those little homages in there.
Yeah, and it was one of the nicer ones, I felt.
Absolutely.
So he then goes in and he sits down with this patient, and the patient's the one that says, "Oh, it looks like it's my time," because I don't know the name of the cat, but the cat anyway is sitting there on his bed. And and so he Ewan McGregor sits with him in his dying moments, and kind of. He's able to use his shine to kind of pick a fond memory that character has had and talk about it with them so that their last moments are a happy moment. Because
he's stressing out and he's about to go into something that's going to get a lot worse, and so he uses his shine to comfort him in that moment. And then that old guy then turns around and says, "Yeah, no, you're special. You're reinforces him and hopefully gives." I felt like it gave his character all of that weight of going, this is your purpose.
Yes, that's right.
And it was lovely. It was so good because then, from that scene, it's sort of that death as well of the old man. We don't see it on camera, but we hear it. And it's very real.
Yes.
And unapologetic. And, and it's just a beautiful moment because it's not trying to be Hollywood. It's just a beautiful little artistic film with a good message.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. And this is the first. I felt like this was the first point where we actually see the steam.
Yeah, you
come
might
out
be
of his
right.
breath, his last dying breath is actually really visible. Which made me go, hold on, did he have the Shining too?
That's what I was thinking too. And I was thinking, well, does everyone have a little bit of steam or
Yeah, a little bit of steam. No,
just a little bit of steam?
that's not steam, that's condensation, mate.
Oh no, precipitation.
Yeah. So, and again, jumping around the timeline because I kind of am forgetting what happens when. But we also have the moment where the turning happens, where the True Knot turn Snakebite Andy into one of them. We're kind of introduced to some more of the other members of the collective at this point. Led by Grandpa Flick, who is played by Carol Struycken, who, as you reminded me, was actually...
Oh, yeah. He was Lurch in the Addams Family and also in Addams Family Values and Addams Family Reunion.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as you also pointed out, he was in the Twin Peaks series as well as the Gentle
Of course, he was most well known, for the Giant, the fireman.
Yeah. And yeah, so he's the elderly patriarchal figure in this of the group. We also are introduced to Barry the Chunk, who is played by Robert Longstreet, who is also was another regular of Mike Flanagan's go-to people, as he appeared in The Haunting of Hill House as Mr. Dudley, he's one of the neighbours. So that was what instantly struck me. It was like I knew his face and I couldn't think of where I knew him from, and had to look it up. But he apparently, as I was saying to you as well, he's cast in the one of the new Halloween sequels that's coming out called Halloween Kills.
Well, they're still going.
It's still going, still rocking along.
Oh,
You know?
dear.
Oh, look at that. Look what he's done. He's gone and spilt it on himself. Yeah, and so we have the guy. So he basically plays, as I said, Barry the Chunk. We have Silent Sari. We also have Short Eddie, and I'm presuming he's the guy. One of the guy looks like he's blind. He's always wearing the dark round glasses. I don't know if he was blind, but I kind of went.
That's right. It was the balding one, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he still had a gun.
And he was in the relationship with the other girl.
The other girl, that's right, yeah. And then we had one other girl, which was Apron Annie, as well. So, like, basically, they're all couples essentially, apart from Grandpa Flick, and yeah, maybe he was hoping to get it on with Snakebite Andy.
Oh yeah,
make me feel a bit younger, why don't you?
Yeah.
So Caligula. So we have these guys, but then we have that whole scene of the turning, and we have Snakebite say to Rose the Hat, "Is it going to hurt?" And she says no, and it fucking hurts. And then she wakes up on the beach the next day, doesn't she? And they're all there's a whole bit where they all kind of give her a nod. Oh yeah, one of us now, isn't it? Hey? One of us. How do you feel now, Treacle? Hey? You feel a bit better? Feel a bit special, don't you? Feel a bit like a bit of life essence in you. That's the steam, mate. That's the steam doing that for you.
And all they needed to do to become that sort of vampiric-y thing was to breathe in someone else's steam.
Yes, that's right. They have to go around stealing other Shine people's steam.
Yeah.
Like their dying breath, essentially, and they have to cap them in little coffee percolator things. Yeah.
But that just made me think, though, that, like, you know, if Snakebite Andy, like, had that first steam and was like, yep, no more, it's too painful or whatever, would she just go on living like a normal human and aging the way she does?
No, I don't think so. I think there was a thing where, and I may have glossed over this in the book a bit, but I kind of have a vague recollection of Rose the Hat kind of saying, once you're committed, that's it. There ain't no going back.
Cool. Yeah, because that would make sense. That's what I was thinking too. Where are the stakes within this world?
Yes, that's right. That's right. And she basically says to her as well, live long.
Eat well.
Well. And there's another one. I can't remember. There's 3 parts of it. But anyway. So which and drink Coca-Cola. But she misinterprets that to mean that she will live forever, immortality.
Yeah.
Which,
Oh no.
you soon find out that ain't the way, my girl. That ain't the way.
Which I was glad at too.
Yeah.
I quite kind of like the way that when they passed away, that happened.
Yeah, I did too. And we will get to that as well. So all that kind of happens. They've recruited her.
Yeah.
I guess that's what we call it.
As well, yeah, because throughout this time as well, back with Danny Torrance, who's now coming back every day from his Doctor Sleep, whatever's. He has a chalkboard wall that's in his room, and one day he comes back and there's just a hello written on the wall. And so he writes back, and so he gets this shining pen pal, which is that Abra girl, which was established in that scene before with the spoons, who's this young girl who obviously has a very strong connection or powerful shine that she's able to manipulate a lot of things. So she starts like abashingly, talking to this older man on a brick wall through her shine. I mean, the internet's bad. Which they also have a joke in this about that, which is good. It's woke.
Yes, it sure is.
Yeah.
It has that connotation to it, doesn't it? It's like, oh.
Yeah. But she's cool with it, and they're just going back and forth with this sort of stuff. But it's established that that he's talking to someone. I don't think he knows who it is necessarily just yet. He's not too fussed about it.
Yeah, that's right. And that connection gets stronger with every passing day because he soon kind of they are having exchanges on a regular basis, and there's a bit where he writes "go to school," and it's obviously in her time she's meant to be going to school. Yeah. So things like that are occurring. So that is kind of cool, and it's also really heavily insinuated at this point that Abra has a very strong shining ability. Potentially stronger than Danny's. Now, in the novel, it does talk about how the older you get, the shining kind of wears off. It doesn't have as strong.
That makes sense.
Yeah, which is another reason why the true knot tend to hunt the young because they have the most powerful shining. And so that's their prey.
Because I was even going to think in comparisons to it, because I always felt like the shine was the similar sort of ability that gets them out of the sewers, or they're able to communicate with each other in the novel, at least of it, at certain points. And so I felt that it might have been that similar sort of thing, and that's why I was saying it makes sense that when you get older, you sort of lose that shine unless you're powerful enough to be connected to it. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because I never necessarily found people in the people in the Losers Club to all be people who were shining. I imagine maybe Bill, like a couple of them, and Beverly, but
yeah.
That's what leads me to the idea of going. Everyone's got a shine in them. Some just are talented and abundant in the power.
Yeah.
But it works just as well by saying that some people have it, some people the Force.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So because I can try to remember now. I did remember reading something about the other characters in the universe that have the shine. I want to say Mother Abigail from The Stand.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was her that's apparently hinted at that she has it, because she says something about her grandmother having it or something, and she called it the shining lamp of God or something like that. So it's kind of insinuated that she has it. Obviously we know Danny and Dick have it.
And Abra at this point too, and
and
let's assume that the True Knot all have the same thing.
That's right.
And are just exploiting it really. But I was talking to my cousin who has apparently read all of the books and was referring to a lot of different characters in the universe that share that thing. It was referring to, I think, the Dark Tower and the Gunslinger.
I've heard that. Yes.
McConaughey's character. I want to say like Mr. Grey or something like that. But
I don't know.
Apparently, yeah, like he was very similar to like a Rose the Hat. If I'm correct from memory, which case I'm not, and please put down the comments if I am. But yeah, that linked sort of thing. I haven't read that. I think I just saw the film.
Same.
And didn't really stick with me. But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it would be so easy for Netflix to just buy all of Stephen King's things and just go, great, now we're just going to have multiple channels just devoted to certain, like, books and spin-offs.
Yeah.
It'd definitely put Disney to a run for their money.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That would be interesting.
Yeah. So is it this point where we get to that traumatic scene?
Yes, that's exactly right. We're about to.
That's what I thought.
The bit actually, I probably was one of the better scenes, just even though it is traumatic. Yeah, it was interesting.
Like when I was watching it, I actually thought, why didn't it open here? Because it was so full on. It felt like it was such a climactic moment that could have easily been that teaser shock in the beginning. You sort of show this scene and then go, who are these people?
Yeah,
there's a lot of information in it.
Yes.
Because I would have liked that sort of thing there too. But yes, so
this is where we get introduced to Bradley, the character Bradley, who's a kid who plays baseball, and basically the way this works is this is where they hunt and prey on The Shining, the kids of The Shining, and the person that tends to do it first is Crow Daddy, and that's kind of how he gets his name, because he goes out first and picks up the scent and then homes in on them kind of before they lock in on who actually has the Shining, to confirm that it's a good target before the rest of them kind of basically come out and then hunt down on them. And we have him watching a baseball scene earlier on.
Just like a little country baseball thing, like amongst the cornfields.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're right. It's a very idyllic sort of scene, and especially when you've got all the family saying, "Oh, like was it young Bradley? He's going to be a star when he gets older." Like it's almost like he knows where the balls are coming or whatever.
That's it. That's right. He can read every pitch. It's like he's going to be going places, blah blah blah. And we see Crow Daddy kind of smirking in the background. And so basically then we get the scene where
he's walking home
and the van pulls up and we get
Now just before this, he's walking by a cornfield, and I really wanted a cameo of He Who Walks Behind the Rose from Children of the Corn. I thought that would have been a lot of fun. Like, you just see a little rustling behind him.
Yeah.
What would have got him?
That would have been kind of cool. You're right.
Yeah. That's the point when the chunk, isn't it?
Yeah, the chunk. Yeah, this is where he pulls. Well, one of the others is driving along in the van, and he kind of leans out and says, "Hey, I saw you at the game. You were really good." And then doing the whole pickup routine, sleazy pickup routine, and the kid quite wisely just says, "Ah, no, I'm good. I'm gonna walk." And then the door slides open of the van, and it's Snakebite
Annie,
and she does her words and lures him into the truck. And then we cut to evening, and he's basically been kind of pinned down in this kind of derelict kind of old mine of some kind. No, what was it? It was like what
was it?
Mine. It's some abandoned kind of place anyway. And they're basically going to sacrifice him essentially, and it's quite harrowing. The kid is really pleading with them to kind of
the screams, the sounds that come out of him are just like haunting. And like they take him out, as you said, they've put these pickets down, like nailed these metal things into the ground, and they tie him down, spread eagle. And it's just, there's so much that goes into that moment that you're sort of going, like, is this the same film? Is this? It was almost too much. It was great because it felt like it was missing, and it was extremely scary, and terrifying. But again, it was sort of so unpleasant. So
it was, and it's, but like, and it, as dark as that was, it was a really powerful scene. Because of it, and you're right. You had that moment of like it. What would that have been like if it did start with that, in the movie, and gone that dark? Because where would you go then? Where would your beats go? Because you'd have to raise the stakes, or do you know what I mean? I don't know. I get what you're saying, but then you at some point would need to go dark again with it. So
you're right, exactly. Yeah, you'd need to have a similar sort of thing, but also too, like, what would you be thinking of these characters completely differently now? Because as you see them in this point, they get to that feeding frenzy, and so it's you're seeing how they've lost their humanity as well. And you get the idea of the sense of terror and pain that they've inflicting on this is just reinforced by the performance. Who that kid does a fantastic performance, and he's
great.
working a lot.
Yes,
because he's good. But yes, during this scene when Rose the Hat's on top and cutting him or doing something with a knife, it's tastefully done because we don't see what's happening. We just imagine the worst.
Yes, that's right.
She senses something behind her amongst the steel works or the mill things.
Yes.
And at this point, it's Abra who's listening in, watching in, shining in. Like, definitely can sense this boy screaming because he's got the shining, and every time he's screaming, the shine comes out and they all breathe it in. But she gets seen, and then what is it? She just locks them out or something like that, or she blows them all.
She basically kind of, I think she senses Rose then sensing her and quickly closes the door on her, and then they just continue with their sacrifice.
Yeah,
of the kid, Bradley kid.
But at that point, then she shines to Danny, and smashes that red rum up against the wall.
Yes, that's right.
Or no, she smacks murder up against the wall, and he reads it, and the thing has red rum, doesn't he?
Yes, that's right, because it's backwards. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, in the chalkboard wall. That's what I should have meant. Yeah, sort of like cracked into the wall, saying murder.
And and as cool as that effect was, I had this moment of going, "What's the landlady going to say when he didn't see that?"
Yes,
he doesn't change it, or
I did think that they needed that. Like 2 scenes later, he writes something on the wall and leaves, and it has him leaving the door. And I wanted her to be coming in, just going, "What the hell is that?" Like, just have that little quirk, and he just walks out.
Yeah, but, that's right. It kind of needed to be. I felt maybe that was in. Maybe they did do something with that, but we didn't get. He didn't make the final cut.
Yeah, we were too traumatized by the baseball boy bit.
Oh my god!
Yeah, but that's like when it says murder, he writes on the wall who, and she writes baseball boy.
Yes.
That's all we sort of know at that point.
Yeah. That's right.
But yeah.
So this is also where Abra goes on a bit of a mission to try and find out who Bradley is, and she starts kind of homing in on that stuff and realizes that. How does she find that out? She somehow works out that his baseball glove has gone missing, and that one of them touched the baseball glove.
Was it because she was seeing flashes on the site? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. Somehow she knows that, and she knows that she can.
Oh, she sees him. She channels them for a second and watches in the van from one of their perspectives.
Maybe.
I think no, wait. Maybe that's when they've got the glove. Sorry.
That is when they. Yeah, but that's how. Yeah, that's right. That's when. I'm just trying to remember how she knew about that. Anyway, she does at some point. But she goes on a bit of a mission of her own anyway, and does a bit of an investigation. And this is when she goes. Does she go and find Danny at this point? She goes and visits him, doesn't she? Is that at that point?
Yeah, she takes it upon herself to go and find him. Yeah, and comes to the town and meets with him.
Yeah,
yeah. And doesn't tell her parents.
Doesn't tell her parents. Yeah,
yeah.
Goes off and they have a bit of a chat, and he's like, "You got to be careful. You got to shut it up. Don't let them know you're shining.
Don't draw attention to yourself."
Yeah, yeah. And
that night, that's when Rose. She
yeah.
ends up getting into Abra's head.
Yeah, so the only thing right, and I like this scene. I thought it was really good.
Same.
My only criticism was the bit leading up to it where she's flying through the sky.
Yeah, too long.
Yeah, it was too long, wasn't it?
Way too long.
I was just like, all right, fucking land already. Like,
yeah. It was nice. I like the technique.
Yeah,
I think that they had her in some sort of like chroma keyed bath, as in but it looked cool.
I just was like, all right, you've been in the air for a long time. I get it. I get that it's not that easy you're doing a whole, needle in a haystack thing to try and track down Abra, but it just felt like that was really weighted. Like, anyway, where she was in the air for too long. And then, by the time she kind of then, falls through that window and that whole technique where she then lands and she's watching Bill sleep. And then behind her is like this huge filing cabinet of stuff. And she finds the one that's on Abra. And that's when she starts to kind of look in. And what I loved about this most is the way the table turns. We have the hunter becoming the hunted eventually, and I was like, it was such a cool moment.
Yeah, and exactly, and how it happens is brilliant. But just before that, because I was going to say when I was talking about the Mind Palace before, Sherlock did a similar thing, in which case they represented the Mind Palace as a filing cabinet.
Yes.
How unimaginative is that? Like, as in the purpose of the Mind Palace is so you can be extravagant, elaborate, and it's going to help that memory.
Yes.
If you're imagining a filing cabinet, there's no connection with that. But I know as a filmic technique, it's easiest to explain a lot of condensed information. Especially when she's rifling through that. But in this sequence, we get to see at least what is now explained to be Abra's representation of what she wants Rose the Hat to imagine her Mind Palace is, with all those filing cabinets. Yes. And as Rose is rifling through that, suddenly the drawer slams shut and a spotlight lands on her, but it traps her hand like above the knuckles into the metal drawer, and she has it's jammed. She can't pull it out. She's tearing the skin back. It's great. But at this time, that's when Abra is now gone into Rose the Hat's Mind Palace, and is going through all of her different little filing cabinets. But again, she says to her, "Oh, mine is a cathedral." And it's cool. And you go in there, you see a cathedral, but what's in there? A filing cabinet. But again, I can understand the representation of it. But great sequence, and that flipping of it and how it gets revealed. It took me by surprise.
Yeah, and it was really cool. Yeah, and so essentially with the turning of the tables, Rose realizes that she's in deep shit and has to physically pull her hand out of the filing cabinet that's trapped her hand in it,
tearing the skin off.
Yeah, and then she does this massive jump back to where she is, so she's basically on top of her Winnebago thing. And then falls off the top of the roof of that, and that's when
that was cool.
I like that too. Yeah. And that's when the rest of the True Knot realised that there's some bad shit happening. And not only is this Abra person extremely powerful and there's a reference that Crow Daddy says is that you're hunting for your big whale earlier on, and she just so happens to find one. At that point in the movie earlier, I kind of was like, from Crow Daddy's perspective, he's just pointed that out, and then she coincidentally finds her big whale. You just be going, that's a bit sus. Just at the point where we kind of need someone, you kind of go, look what I found. But anyway, they realise that there's some stuff, heavy stuff going on. And this Abra person is probably more powerful than she. When they first thought, and just a second, I'm just looking at because at what point does Grandpa Flick take the flick?
That's what I was thinking too.
Anyway, we'll probably just mention that it may have happened already in the plot line, but basically we have the scene where Grandpa Flick. They need steam to survive, and it's hinted that they're running low on their rations. Can't survive, which is why it's so important for them to track Abra down, because if she has this power, they could live off that for another endless amount of years.
And they also say like there's different things they could do. They could either turn her, they could just take her steam and can it, or they could torture her over a long amount of time and farm her.
Yes. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But we have to see what's important about the Grandpa Flick character is that we actually have to see what happens to these characters when they die. And he's the eldest of the group and obviously the weakest, and we see him die, and it's done in a really, really cool way. What did you think of the way he dies in this?
Yeah, no. I loved it. I thought that the breathing and the idea of whether or not it was transparent flesh or it was the idea that the shining was actually just giving everyone the interpretation that it was like, new skin, like, on top, and it was sort of like a plastic surgery, but it was all fabricated from the shine, like illusion. Or was it literally like what is it, Forever Young with Mel Gibson, where it was just like he ages that quickly and then like it's constantly fluctuating from old to back to young. There was so many, like, again, it could have been a lot of things, and the fear through them and the gasping for breath and everything. I really liked that. I thought it was artistically done, but also still scary. But the whole time you're going, oh, this poor thing. It's
just withering away, rapidly.
But also good to see that they can get a comeuppance.
Yeah, that's right, and that's why it was so important, a scene. But I really loved the animalistic nature that comes out of them too, though, when he does die and turns to ash, and then the steam comes up, and they, like a pack of wolves, just home in,
descend on it,
left over of his steam, and I thought that was really interesting.
Going back to the Antonio Banderas thing, that's almost the exact same imagery, isn't it? That sort of bird's eye view of everyone moves back, and then they all.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Good scene. So basically, like, coming back to the story proper, they realized that they really need to find Snake. Sorry, man.
No, you're right.
They really need to find Abra. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And that's Dick tells him Danny to protect her.
Yeah, that's right. And so. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Dick. That's right. Dick goes.
Yeah, and Abra then goes on to tell Danny what happened with Rose and the hand and everything like that. And she says that she can track the people down, as you said, by getting his baseball boy's baseball glove.
That's right. So he... did we miss the whole bit of the shopping mall scene as well? Did that happen before?
Oh yeah, that was before this. That's the first time when Rose, I think, goes looking for Abra's energy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and finds her. No. Sorry, Abra's looking for her.
Yeah.
Then she flips it and she gets out of my head and smashes everything. It's great.
Yeah, that's right. That was a cool scene too.
We never find out why, if there is anything magical about the hat, do we? As in Rose Hat's hat.
No, we don't.
It's in that sequence as well. She's knocked back, and then someone goes to touch it, and she's like, "No, don't touch it."
Yeah, don't touch my hat. You're right. I don't know what that. Yeah, stash of hats. They're all the same.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know the history of that, and maybe as I read the book a bit more, that may come up. But it hasn't come up yet.
No. But yeah. I don't know. At this point, after the Danny and Abra have had their little chat, that's when Danny goes to Billy New Zealander, and they have to go and get dig up the body.
Yeah, they go and dig up the body. Yeah, because she kind of gets them on the location and sends them off on a bit of an errand. They turn up, and at the location, they dig up the body. It smells putrid. Billy does his whole deer hunter bill.
That's right.
And says, that smell of dead deer, that's what I can smell.
Yeah. But also, too, I thought at this point, like, Danny has just told him a pretty far-fetched story. But the evidence that this guy has is Danny knew where this boy was buried.
Yes.
But, right. I would have loved at least a little bit of a moment of just going, I don't really know this guy.
Yeah. I just got him to live up in the attic of the same place I rent, and
That's it. And he's smashing the wall and writing murder and cracks.
yeah. Maybe I should trust him. Yeah, but he does. He trusts him, and yeah, they dig up the body, and but they importantly get the glove, and this is what it's like. A lot you get this in a lot of psychics that they need a physical thing in order to pick up the scent or the last moments of somebody, and so Abra then, by having the glove, is then able to track down Chunk, and there's that scene where she's sitting there watching them. In the van, driving to her, essentially. That's where they realise that they're not that far away, but they could potentially lure them as bait. Prior to that, because of Rose the Hat being injured, Crow Daddy insists that she stays behind. So she's the only one of the group. Not just because of her injury, but also because he thinks that the fact that Abra is able to get into her
mind, yeah, exactly, and they don't know what she's read. Yeah,
to the group.
And again, it just further makes that character of the Crow a lovely character. I love that character.
Yeah, he's a smart character, and a deadly character too, as we do find out, because we get that whole next bit where they basically lure the group into the woods. And we have her just sitting on the table, and we get Snakebite Annie come up and go to inject her, and then
tries to do a pusher routine on her.
And then realize that the projection is just a stuffed teddy bear, and not actual Abra, and that they've walked into it's a trap.
Gunfire rains out.
Shoot them down. And that's when Ewan McGregor and Danny and Billy, it's revealed that they're crack shots with the rifle guns, and basically start shooting down the members of the True Knot, and they wither and die really quite rapidly, one by one, getting killed off.
All the steam flying out.
That's right. Annie does get shot, but she's kind of pushed into the Winnebago, but basically they all kind of get killed off, and they surround the Winnebago, and Danny basically gets to the door, and she's on the inside, and he goes to shoot her and realizes he's out of bullets. So she then thinks she's got the upper hand, comes out, and basically kind of says,
tells him to sleep.
Yeah. And he does. He goes under the trance, falls asleep, and she says the line, fucking men. And she thinks she's won, and then out pops Billy, who shoots her.
He's a good old shot.
He's a good shot.
Yeah.
But he's a very...
Could have been better. Could have gone for the head.
And then if he'd done that, then maybe he would have lived to tell the tale.
Yeah, although when she did that, again, because it's such a full-on story, I was happy that had happened. I didn't want his character to die, obviously, but that it was such a hit again was great. Great timed. Seemed a bit of as Snakebiter Annie. I did feel like it was a little bit of a thrown away character. I wanted to see her in the next act.
Yeah, I
would have been happy with that.
A very strong character. Very strong.
Yeah, especially setting her up with her origin as well.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, so no, she dies, but in her dying breath says, "Go kill yourself" to Billy, and he duly obliges.
Yes.
It's like, all right. So yeah, dispatched. So Danny's on his own, and he also realizes that one of them's missing.
Yes,
Crow Daddy.
And he's talking to Abra through the shine at this point, and they're explaining what's happening. That's right.
And then that's when it turns out that Crow Daddy was there at Abra's house.
Yep. And sticks her in the neck with that little drug stuff.
And then as he's taking her out, we see a dead dad. In the corner.
So another necessary fatality.
Boy, dear boy.
I know.
So dead. So,
We shouldn't take that much pleasure in this.
no, we shouldn't. So basically, and that's what I love about this movie is that the tables just keep getting turned and flipped, and the balance of power, and all that stuff. And especially this next scene, as Crow Daddy's then driving off because Danny doesn't know what to do, and he's like, "How am I gonna track her?" And then he realizes that he already has a psychic connection with her, and that he can use her. And so basically, he jumps into her body.
Yeah, because she's drugged at this point, so she can't shine or do much.
Yeah,
Danny is able to then sit next to her in the car,
and there's that whole exchange that he has with Crow Daddy, and that point where Crow Daddy realizes Abra's not the person he's talking to.
Yeah.
Like, so who are you?
And kudos to that.
Talking to.
Kudos to that actress as well, because I thought that it was such a difference, like such a different character that she was portraying in that scene. Obviously, she has blue eye contacts or something in there. I didn't even think that was necessary. Her transformation was big enough.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
and I thought that was awesome.
Pronounce her name, but it's I think it's Kylie, but it's just spelled a different way. But Kylie Curran is the that plays Abra. And where we're going with that? Yeah, and then basically there's this whole thing where the whole exchange essentially leads up to the fact that Danny, who is inside the body of Abra, says you're immortal, so because of that I know that you're not wearing a seatbelt, and basically uses his abilities to then
wreck the car.
Basically wreck the car, take it off the road, crash into a tree. Crow Daddy goes flying through the window. It
reminded me a lot of have you seen the film Chronicle, that sort of superhero film that's really real? Yeah, when they do that, they push the car off the road. That was a great movie.
That was an awesome movie, yeah. Yes, it is full on.
It's awesome.
So then basically that happens. I'm going to have to get you to fill in how Danny and Abra are reunited, because at this point in the movie, I had to go on a toilet break.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, you ran out, and I was thinking, what, you're going to do this now?
Yeah, I know. I was like, I couldn't hold on anymore. I drank that water too quick.
That's right. Because we have a moment when Abra gets out of the car and goes up to Crow Daddy, who's doing his slow breathing, and again, it's nice to have his little outro moment where he's, I can't remember if there's much dialogue that's said, bar like, you deserve this, I hope it hurts, or something like that. She says. But at this point, I'm trying to think of,
because I missed a bit how he basically reunites with her, because when I came back in, that he was driving with her.
I assume he went and picked her up. The next time I remember is them in the car on the way to the Overlook. He must have just picked her up, like gone to where she was.
Okay, cool. We checked it down pretty quick.
Either that, or maybe it's just the last time we see her is there, and the next time we see her, they're in the car together, and they have the mobile phone bit.
Yeah.
Which again, I would have been happy with all of those 3 takes in the car. With them and saying, "Where are we going?" Well, exposition. All that sort of stuff didn't need to be done. All you needed was the theme and that shot of them going to the Overlook, and we knew exactly what was happening.
I mean, that's essentially it. Like, he's, he realizes that the purpose of this is that Danny's like, well, we know there's only Rose the Hat left. She's going to be coming for them. She's powerful. Yeah. I'm going to take her to somewhere that I know is more powerful, which is the Overlook Hotel. And this is where it ties back into the Stanley Kubrick version of it, because it's still standing and it's boarded up. So obviously this wouldn't have worked in the book.
No.
And I don't know how that resolves in the book, to be fair.
I would have been keen to have seen it if it was a burnt down ruin. Like, as in you go to the ballroom and it's all open. I mean, that would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been kind of interesting. Yeah, like the ruins of what was before.
Yeah.
Well, essentially, like we get them turning up, and they're trying to set up another trap for Rose. Essentially, that's what they're doing. And he tells Abra to stay outside while he goes inside to reawaken the hotel.
Yeah.
And so he goes in and potters around and stuff, and he goes to 237 and his own room that he stayed in, and all the various bits and pieces that start happening. And
well, I'd like to take a moment just as well to discuss the filming of the Overlook in.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Because I noticed from the trailer that it didn't have the grandiose feel that the Kubrick version had, and I'm sure they probably would have designed and constructed these sets based on exact plans of the Kubrick version. But yeah, even the bedroom didn't seem like it was as deep as it was in the Kubrick version. Maybe it's just because it was longer takes when walking in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Or lenses or something like that. But I also noticed an inconsistency. I feel like the door of the Here's Johnny door in the last shot that we see it in The Shining actually has two big panels cut out of it.
Yeah.
And I know I just recently looked over that scene again, and I know that the Here's Johnny bit just has one panel out.
Yes.
But I'm pretty confident when there's a shot of Jack Nicholson's character turns because he's going to go after Danny.
Yeah.
You see, there's two things there. A minor detail, but it was. I was interested that it more care wasn't taken with those shots, because again, that's the money shot. I would have been thinking nostalgic wise.
Because that's the thing. Like, and I'm jumping into another film, but like when the prequel to The Thing was released, which was also called The Thing. That's something that my aunt and I have discussed. We're both huge fans of The Thing.
So good.
And we were discussing because some people have kind of come out and criticized the prequel. But one thing we really liked was the continuity that was and the care and attention that went and linking certain bits up. That married up. And I get exactly what you're saying. All it would have taken in this instance was some of that. Some of those finer moments to kind of lined up a bit nicer, I think.
Yeah. Well, even on the remake of The Thing, because I loved the original version. I remember seeing the remake or the prequel, whatever it was, before I saw The Thing, and loved The Thing so much more than the remake.
Yeah, right.
It was in looking at the special effects for that, because the original Thing was so revolutionary by using special effects being designed physical props that they were manipulating and puppets they were manipulating. Yeah. It was so engaging because it was so surreal. Yeah. Yet when you've got the remake, they did the exact same thing. They had all of these physical props, all of this makeup and prosthetics and everything. But then in the editing, in the post-production, they digitally covered all of those things to make them look what they thought more realistic.
Yes.
And that's what destroyed it for me. It was just sort of like, well, now it all looks like a cartoon.
Yeah,
if you've got that, don't paint over it.
Yeah.
But still, fun journey.
Fun journey. It was a fun journey. So,
and if the Thing can replicate, how can it not reach around a vent? Sorry, that's the only other plot point. It can replicate.
Too true. Okay, but we're talking about The Shining. So, sorry, digression, and that was my fault.
Right.
So basically Danny's kind of resurrecting the hotel. He goes down into the gold ballroom, and that's where he meets Lloyd, played by Henry Thomas.
Woo!
Who also is it's a bit weird, this, isn't it? Because it's a cross between the character that we're seeing is a cross between Lloyd and the cross between Jack Holmes.
Yeah.
It's not.
I quite like this moment.
Yeah.
Again, you could read very deep into this. Is it Lloyd? Is it The Shining? The Overlook? Is it Danny's psychic, or is it Jack Torrance's psyche?
Yeah, that's right. And because he even and Danny dresses him as his dad. The vision he sees as his dad. So And then when we do see later on that he, there's the scene with the axe and he's chasing after him with the axe moment as well happens.
Yeah.
As a bit of a flashback, I think, I want to say. And it's,
I think so. Of course, because at that stage, of course, there's a replication element that's happening with Danny.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he starts to kind of play out.
Which again, I did feel a little bit like that Jack Torrance was specific to that scenario. You know what I mean? I didn't feel like the same thing that got Jack Torrance is the same thing that's going to get Danny Torrance. I never ever felt that.
I don't know if it was that. I think it wasn't it. I don't know. Like maybe I'm just trying to paper over the cracks a bit, but maybe it was more that Danny has always been so worried about following in his father's footsteps, and with the alcoholism as well. And even then, like when he gets the sobriety tip early on, he says, "This is for my dad." So there's elements of that. So I wonder if that is more just him or the hotel's way of getting him,
pushing him. Yeah, you're right, because they did have similar demons.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's even that scene before when he, I think Abra goes missing, and he there's that moment where he's going to just down the whiskey or something. And so we get a moment where he becomes the better man at that point.
Yes.
So it probably wouldn't be too far for him to be pushed.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where they were going with that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I think it's a better way of looking at it that way. True. Yeah.
So anyway,
I didn't even think of it that way. I was more like, I don't want to see Ewan McGregor smile as this crazy character.
I said, stop smiling, Ewan. Yeah. So inevitably Rose turns up and we get the whole kind of confrontation, and she goes, "Oh, look at you, handsome," and all that stuff.
Where have you been hiding?
And
that's when he tries to lock her in a box.
Yeah, get you in a box. And there's that, and he does do that in the maze as well. And he projects himself as Abra again.
I think so.
And she does the whole kind of running behind and stabbing her Rose in the back of the legs.
Yeah.
And just as she get her into the coffin. Yeah, I don't know. It was a bit weird, that bit.
I would have liked it if she was cutting tendons and she was she couldn't hold her weight up, something. Otherwise, one happened, two happened. You're sort of going, what are you cutting? Yeah. She's not affected by it.
No, that's right. That's right. So anyway, she kind of soon works out that that's not working, is it? She telegraphs where she's coming from and catches. Just into a coffin. Or box or whatever it is. She turns the tables again, and then there's that whole kind of confrontation between her and Danny.
Which is her and Danny, which is pretty much a I want to say homage again, not a shot for shot remake or anything, but going backwards up the stairs with a weapon, the same as Jack and Wendy were doing.
That's right. That's right.
Which Rose is divulging by saying that, you're so powerful, come and join us, you could be young forever, blah, blah, blah.
That's right.
But also, as you said, divulges that there's more than just her. She says there's quite a few.
Yeah, that's right. That's where it's hinted that there are more of them. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't want to have a bar of it, but she basically realizes that he's not gonna join the dark side.
No.
And she overpowers him, essentially.
Yeah.
And
in a strangely choreographed fight.
Yeah.
Because what's it? She gets hit. I don't know. I'll have to see it again.
But the result of it is that she cuts his tendon with an axe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's femoral artery or something, isn't it?
So that's right. Yeah. So he's got a fatal wound.
Yeah, he's bleeding out.
And that's the point where you're going, he's not going to live to tell the tale here, because they are in the middle of butt-fuck nowhere, and he has a fatal wound. And just as it looks like she's going to overpower him, she discovers the boxes in his head and wants to know what it is. And he basically lets loose, and it's all the demons and
the different ghosts. The two little girls are there. The guy with the axe wound.
Yeah,
a lovely party.
And saggy booby woman.
Yeah.
And-
Grady's there.
Yeah, they all kind of basically turn on Rose and feed off her energy, killing her.
And put their hands underneath her skin and whatnot.
Yeah, get right under her skin, don't they? Eh?
Yeah, they do get under her skin. But also too, when I was talking to my cousin, this was one of the areas that he was more interested in because her death or this sequence plays out differently from what I understand. He didn't tell me what happens, but.
Yeah, I did a bit of reading on this. As I said, I haven't read the book. I just kind of quickly took a snapshot of the synopsis, but I think she gets thrown off the cliff or something by Danny.
Oh.
By Danny
Oh.
and Aubra, but also Jack.
Oh, cool.
The vision of Jack turns up.
Oh, wow.
Might
be something that's worth a read.
Yeah, so I will at some point read the book and catch up on that and find out for sure. So there are probably people that have read it and going, "What are you talking about, you bloody nana?" And tell me that I was wrong. But I think that's what happens. But yeah, in this instance, yeah, it's the demons that overpower her, and once they've had their main course, they want their desserts in Danny, and turn on him and start attacking him,
and possess him.
And then we cut to Aubra on her own in the Overlook Hotel. And
she's gone back to room 237?
37. And he's the vision. And that's when Danny turns up. And he's now fully Jack Torrance, Danny hybrid.
Yeah. One eye's glassed over.
Yes, one eye glassed over, that's right. And she says, "There's still good in you. I know there's still good in you, Dad." I mean, Danny. And
again,
there's a lot of Star Wars kind of stuff going on. I don't know if you know.
Well, I was even going to say, it feels like it's the exact ending to the miniseries.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is the exact dialogue even that's at the end of the book.
Maybe.
The Shining.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Now I have to reread that again.
Yeah, because I know that in the miniseries that young Danny Torrance says, "I know one thing. I know one thing you don't. My daddy hasn't checked the boiler pressure today."
Yeah,
that's what makes him go, "No." And it was very, very similar. It was on the nose.
You're right. I think you're right. Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's basically what Abra does. Is she's like, I know, Danny, and I know you've forgotten something. And that's when he's like, "Yeah, my wife's gonna kill me." And then he runs down to the boiler house room. Abra gets the puck out of there, and
Danny goes to turn the nozzle or whatever, but you can see him hesitate.
Yeah, and he stops himself, and
he chooses not to.
And that's basically when it starts to engulf in flames. And Abra's on the outside. The police suddenly start turning up.
Why are they turning up? Who called them?
No, who called the police?
Yeah. To go out in the middle of nowhere, which we also know at the end of The Shining, you need a bobcat to get out to in a snowstorm.
Yeah, that's right.
They leave the car battery on out the front. I mean, poor Abra girl.
Then, so basically, and there's a point where she goes, "Come on, make it out." And then it's clear from the inside that he knows he's dying and he's going to give himself up.
Yeah, and he sees himself as the younger representation of himself, and then suddenly, "Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall." She pops up.
She walks up and she goes, all right, son, you've changed.
It's pretty hot in here.
And they blow up.
Yeah,
and die, and then we get the epilogue scene. Scooby-Doo ending. And it was me all along, you kids. I got away with it if it wasn't for you pesky kids.
Rips the lady in the bath's mask off. It was old Mr. Philadelphia all along.
So then we basically get the ending scene where Abra's chatting with the ghost of Danny. All their adventures they had together.
Now, as well, I like that too, because that shot has a painting in the corner, and that painting is of the same shot of that, where it's positioned, but it just doesn't have Danny in there. It's just an empty corner. And so I like that. I again got a little bit annoyed at it because I saw it. It was like, oh, he's dead. Like, we're gonna find out when you cut in a second.
yeah. Like what?
But just to have it blatantly sitting there.
Yeah. And then we end with the scene with Abra going to the bathroom, and we see the Mrs. Macy rotten woman in the bathtub again,
getting up and ready to pounce. But again, we know that what Abra is about to do and go in there and lock her away. Also, just before this too, the whole film she has been hiding from her parents.
Good point.
So she doesn't say anything to her father when like Danny first turns up and he thinks that she's found her on the internet and is trying to take her away and stuff. And so she quickly shines to him and communicates everything. So at this point, when the mother sees her talking to no one in her room and says, "You okay?" and she goes, "Yeah, I'm fine." But then she comes down and she says, "Actually, I was talking to Danny and like he's dead, but he's okay, and so is Daddy." And the mother's comforted by that. And so there's a nice little
there is
arc for her too.
There's a bit of this for me was like an X-Men moment.
No, you're right. Yes.
Where she reveals her powers to her parents, and it's going to go one way or another. But luckily, Mum's all accepting.
I'm replaying that moment when she's going into the bathroom with the lady, and like slow motion, almost Quentin Tarantino walking music, like it's like cool music. For some reason, like I'm just imagining those sort of ends of films. Like, those teenager sort of movies.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and again, it's just seemed a little bit comical. It was a little bit annoying at that stage.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. It was annoying. I just want to say that too, that Abra's mum was played by Jocelyn Donahue. And for me, she was in that as a great film. You have to see this if you haven't seen it. It's Ty West directed it. Early 2000, 2008, 9, but it was The House of the Devil. It's an awesome film, and she's in that. And she also was in Insidious Chapter 2 as well. Wow. Playing the younger version of the character Barbara Hershey played, the mum, the Nana mum character. She played the young version of her. But she's cool actress. Jocelyn Donahue.
That's amazing. Interestingly enough, just on that as well, House of the Devil shares its name with a 1896 French silent film directed by Georges Méliès, which was renamed. It was remade about 5 different times by him and other people, but under the name The Haunted Castle.
That's
but
right,
for those of you who don't know, Georges Méliès, the pioneer of movie magic. Of anything CG or green screen, it was Georges Méliès.
I'm a huge fan of his stuff. And I'm a huge fan of Hugo, the film Hugo.
I love it, yes. Yeah. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Digressions. But that was the closing kind of scene of the film, and we get the awesome kind of music swelling up again as it kind of bows out. So we've had a few days on it. This has been released hopefully at the time that we're releasing this podcast. It should be Thursday the 7th. It gets the nationwide release here in Australia. So a few days have passed. What's your gut take of it? How are you sitting with this? Did you like the movie?
From the beginning, I looked at the trailer just before going to see the film, and I quickly formed an opinion that I didn't like it, or I wasn't going to enjoy it because it was just going to be a cash grab, nostalgic bang bang bang. So when watching the film and it's starting that way, I didn't enjoy it. It was only until we got into the Danny Torrance story and seeing the Doctor Sleep from that moment of all of that establishment with the cat and the Doctor Sleep thing. Yeah, I was on board then. Then it just took more heights with the extremities and subject matter. So then to finally get to the Overlook, for me at that point, it wasn't the nostalgic thing. I wasn't going, I really want to see what happens to this place. It was more, I want to find out what happens with Abra. I want to see Danny dies, if Rose, whatever happens, because I felt like it could go anywhere, especially after that baseball boy scene.
Yes.
But no, I was happy with it, and I've been recommending it to people, and I would yeah, very much recommended, especially if you have enjoyed either the Shining Kubrick version or the books or the miniseries.
Yeah, and I agree. And what I really liked about this, and this is, again, I've still got the fanboy crash thing going on with but I just like the way that he was able to, and because it's no mean feat, you know, that the way he was able to construct all of those elements that took place. And like we were saying with the difference between the novel of The Shining and the Stanley Kubrick version is that they were kind of part of the same universe. But what Flanagan essentially did was combine those universes together and with this vision that is Dr. Sleep. Yes, it's a variation of the novel of Dr. Sleep itself. But the way he's able to kind of twist that and turn it so that it suits the Kubrick version as well as the novel, I thought was really good.
I thought that was a fantastic way to do it.
And it needed that ending. Like, I felt like it needed that ending. Do you know what I mean? It deserves that ending.
Yeah, I was in that way as well. That was probably the only other thing I took away from the trailer.
Yeah.
The final trailer as well, it's just whatever editing house is like pushing these trailers to tell you everything about the film is annoying as hell. Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, I want Danny to die in The Overlook, or I want him to be like Jack Torrance. I want something, he's got to end there. So that boiler moment for me was very gratifying. But even just, I was going to say on Mike Flanagan, he also edited this film.
Yes, he did. Yes, that's right. Yes.
Which is strange to see on a big budget production like this, to have him being the only editor. I'm sure that there might have been other production hands and stuff like that with it, but him being the main credit on it is fantastic. And I just found a quote that he said when he was interested in directing Dr. Sleep. He said, "It touches on themes that are most attractive to me, which are childhood trauma leading into adulthood, addiction, the breakdown of a family, and the after effects decades later." Yeah. So
that's essentially what The Haunting of Hill House is as well.
Great. Cool.
That's into exactly those same kind of core elements. So
yeah, we can easily see wow, it was brought that across to this one. I've got to check that out, because everyone who I've been speaking to who has recommended that has said nothing but good reviews about it.
He definitely he tends to edit his own films as well, he
good
does do that and write the screenplays for him and stuff. So yes, he's very hands-on with that, and I feel like that's necessary, because he's definitely got a vision, and that's why I really like him as a director. He kind of knows what he wants in a movie. Very Hitchcockian, really, in that respect. He knows exactly what he wants and what he wants to get out of it, and
he knows how to achieve it within the
that's exactly right. Itself. Knows how to.
And so, in regards of whoever best to take up the mantle to do this film, Mike Flanagan is probably the best, most current director who is on that Kubrick-esque scale.
Yes, very much so. And it's no Kubrick film. Let's say Kubrick is a one-of-a-kind director. And all due respect to Flanagan, he's not a Kubrick.
No.
But he's a storyteller and he's a visionist. And I think that those two ingredients are integral for any current film director to have a success and a career. And he's doing it. I still stand by the fact I've watched every one of his films now, and I have not been disappointed in any of them.
That's great. I saw Ouija in there, and I was like, really? I know. From Oculus, when you were saying from an editing perspective, he knows, like Hitchcock, how he wants to tell that story. And it's best utilized in that, because that felt like it was such a complete film. And I want to see Gerald's Game now, because I remember seeing the trailer for that, but love that concept. It flipped me around, even from I think if I wasn't to see the trailer, I think I still would have had a very similar reaction of that annoyance in the beginning, but then flipping it around. I'm very happy with it, and I think that everyone should definitely see it.
It's out in cinemas now, so go check it out and for yourselves and cast your own opinions on it. But from the Surgeons team, I think it's a collective thumbs up. and definitely go out and check it out. And on that note, we should probably kind of bow out on the podcast. Thanks for sticking around and listening to our rambles and thoughts as we dissected and discussed this recent film, Dr. Sleep. And do stick around for further adventures back into the Wes Craven nightmare years that has been part of the genesis of our current season. Until then, I'm the lead host and surgeon for the podcast series. My name is Saul Murty, and I was joined by Richard Lovegrave.
Fare thee well.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.